Hi guys,
My name is Rudy.
and I'm Paloma. Welcome to our channel. The reason for this video is to give couples or anybody in a relationship some advice and some tips on how to manage your money and how to communicate and how to be in a relationship or even a marriage.
A little bit about ourselves. We've been married for 5 years.
Just celebrated 5 years in August.
Yeah, we've known each other for a long time. We've known each other since high school, so you can say we're high school sweethearts.
I think more than high school. Well, I was 15 and he was 16 and we were dating for a while and then we got married.
That's high school.
Okay, whatever,
What do
fine.
you mean more than high school? Makes no sense.
Well, I'm saying because we were young. Anyways,
So we narrowed this video down for 5 topics that we're going to cover. And I think these 5 topics are important because they help us in our relationship on how to have a successful marriage of 5 years, which I think it's a keystone, half a decade. And I think it's also important that you know a little bit of our background and where we come from, because this information that we're going to share is, we want it to be valid, we want it to be credible. So we're going to talk a little bit about our history and what we've accomplished and what we've done so far. So
yeah, should I go first?
go ahead.
Okay, I'm currently a year fresh out of college. Graduated from CSUMB with a business degree in business marketing. And, I guess a little bit of history too. I guess we want to talk about our parents and our upbringing. And
I come from a family of entrepreneurs before it was a thing, before it was a trend. You know, my dad is a real estate, he was a real estate investor and a real estate agent, and also in the retail business for many years. So that was kind of my upbringing versus your upbringing.
yeah, which is very school oriented. So right away when you go to school, when you go to high school, you should think about college. And so my parents both went to college and they both graduated and they have full-time jobs, 9 to 5. And so that's basically how I was raised. I was raised on like that typical path that you go through.
So as you can see, very, very different. And in the early ages of our marriage, this was a challenge for us because we were raised differently. So we saw 2 different ways of how somebody's financial situation should be. So this in the beginning created a lot of conflict. So for example, we got married 5 years ago, and as soon as we got married, we moved to Sacramento, and we moved to Sacramento in an apartment for schooling. So she went to school. She was going to Sac State. Quickly, we discovered, you know, being on ourselves, we discovered finances was a challenge, you know, because that's something that we never discussed. We never discussed where our paychecks were going to be, how to manage our paychecks. We got married, and she had her account, and I had my account. And that created a challenge. I mean, how was that?
Yeah, so definitely I think distinguishing also in a relationship the spender and the saver.
Who was a spender?
Obviously I was the spender.
Me, I was a saver. You know, I grew up where my dad was like, okay, you want a car, you can have a car, but you got to work for it. You have to save up for the car, and you have to have money saved in your bank account just in case the car breaks down. You need oil, you need an oil change, you need tires, something happens to the car, you're responsible for that car. Versus in your case, they bought you a car, you know, they provided everything for you. So this was good because, again, we came from 2 different backgrounds, 2 different families, we were raised differently, but ultimately it has placed us where we are today, and this has helped us significantly. And this is where an effective communication comes into play. So for example, years ahead, about 3 years into our marriage is when we really started communicating and setting goals for ourselves, and really started saying, okay, well, you know, how can we accomplish certain things? So one of our goals was we wanted to buy a house. You know, thankfully we were able to buy a house at 24 and 25 years old. We were homeowners. So I think that's a huge stepping stone for us that we were able to accomplish. Was, well, first off, we decided, what is it really that we want? What is it really that, you know, we want to accomplish? So we said, okay, we want to buy a house. Well, buying a house, there's different things that go into play. One of them is you have to be able to save money for a down payment. So we sat down and we decided, how can we save money? How can we really set this aside. So we started realizing if anything that you want, you have to sacrifice ultimately. So,
that goes into tip number 1. So definitely tip number 1 would be communication. So that's what he's getting at, is that tip number 1, especially in a relationship, it has to be communication. And our communication would fall under us both understanding that we want something. We want the same thing. And also communication within how much are we spending and how much is each person contributing. So we need to communicate who was the saver and who was the spender, and then how to kind of balance those two. And so another thing, communication would be kind of falling into our way of life. So I need to definitely look at some things and start spending money so much on shoes and makeup and kind of turn more into a saver somehow, some way, turn to a saver so that we can get the house or get into a place that we felt comfortable in. So communication would be definitely important, I think, even in a relationship first and foremost, and then also in saving money. It's very important.
I think communication is very important, and not only communication but also being honest. I mean, it's okay. It's okay. I mean, in the beginning, she had credit card debt, and
do you remember those stories?
She had credit card debt, major credit card debt, and she kept it from me.
Do you remember how you found out? Remember, we were in the room, and you wanted to look at my credit card account on my phone, and I literally ran from you like crazy all over the room because I did not want you to get the password to my phone to see my credit card.
Really?
Yeah. You remember I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified because I had like a good amount, and you like literally chased me around the room trying to get that account. You finally got it after like I think 30 minutes of chasing me.
Yeah. At the end, it all comes down to, it's understandable. Again, we didn't have anything in place, so ultimately we communicated. I was upset, it's understandable. But ultimately we communicated and we said, okay, you know what, let's set a time frame, let's set a date. Let's say, let's try to really cut back and let's try to pay off the credit card in 3 months or 6 months. I don't remember what it was, how quickly we paid it off, but I think
it was pretty fast.
It was pretty fast. I think we just set a date and we were like, you know what. So what we did to help that out and to set that forth is that we set up a budget. So what we did is said, okay, how much money do you feel comfortable spending weekly? What is it that you like? What is it that you enjoy? Do you enjoy eating Starbucks every morning? So these are the things that we ultimately communicated about, and she expressed to me what is it that she wanted to do. And ultimately that's how we set up a budget. She said, I like A, B, and C, and I want to go to A, B, and C these many times a week. Ultimately we said, okay, well, based on the income that we're bringing in, that is possible, but you have to cut back on here, and here. Ultimately, people think that for you to accomplish these things, you have to be making a lot of money or huge amounts of money. And when we were in Sacramento, I mean, we were not making a lot of money. She wasn't working. She was just going to school full time. And I was working at doing property management and property maintenance at a company in Sacramento. So ultimately, we didn't have a lot of money coming in. But ultimately, we knew where to spend our money and how to spend our money effectively on things that count. So something that we knew right away was that, we would go out and eat maybe daily, and that accumulated to $40 a day. So for example, $40 a day and in 5 days, Monday through Friday, not including weekends, that's already $200. In a month, that's already $800. So that's something that we decided, okay, let's cut back on eating out every single day. And then that's $800 that we were to save every single month that we were able to put aside to our credit card and pay off the credit card sooner. So like you said, tip number 1, have a effective communication and just be true. And if there's debt that needs to be paid off or anything like or any hidden debt, bring it forward. That's the most important thing.
Don't keep it a secret. And I think also just identifying the saver and the spender too is also big too, to figure out where those people kind of need to be held accountable if they're the saver, and then kind of get some tips from the from the spender. I meant to say
they say opposites attract. So we are opposites. You know, she is a spender. I was a saver based on how we were raised. And ultimately, over the years, we've learned to put those two together and say, okay, you know what, let's spend money here, let's save money here. And ultimately, now we have a communication where it's good.
And that leads us into the topic of tip number 2. So credit cards. So like we said before, I had a lot of credit card debt going into the marriage. I had pretty high amount of debt, and I couldn't bring it down, struggling with that. So I definitely think putting out on the table all the credit card debt amongst both of you is really important. I also, I really think that having that open availability of, okay, this is how much is on that credit card and this is how much is on that credit card, and then combining it to see, okay, this is how much we owe as a couple is really important, because then if you have, I wouldn't be able to have taken that debt down as fast as I did if I didn't tell you, or if you didn't force it out of my hand. I was able to pay that debt down as fast as we did so that we could get into the house. So I think credit card debt, that's an aspect that I thought was really important.
And if you guys want more information or more of our opinions, there's several different ways that we are able to manage certain things or finance certain things through credit card. And, a lot of people think credit cards are bad. And they are, especially because there's high interest rates, but there's way to work at it. There's ways to, choose the right credit card. So we'll go into that topic more. If you guys request it, you guys can comment on the videos. But for now, let's move into our tip number 3.
Savings account. So savings account and saving percentages of your paycheck or both of your paychecks, a percentage amount into a savings account, which is really important. We didn't realize how important a savings account was until, first of all, we should actually really be truthful with them. We didn't even really get a joint account until,
2 years ago?
Not even, like a year ago. We didn't get a joint account until like a year ago. And we've been married for 5 years. And that was the first thing that they always told us to do, was to get a joint account. Having a savings account in that.
I was afraid she was going to spend all my money.
No. So the reason, in all sincerity, the reason to get a joint account is to have a savings account, and that's really important so that you can put a percentage of each other's paycheck into the saving account. And it just makes things a lot easier because you're able to see, okay, this person's contributing to this and this person's contributing to that. And then you can also see that number just grow a lot faster than if you were just to have each one have their own savings account. But I think also that's really important too, as a joint account.
Yes,
I think a joint account.
It is because, and the reason why it's because, so if you have 2 separate accounts, it makes it that much more challenging. 2 different accounts that you have to review weekly, daily, monthly, however it is that you guys choose to review them. Versus if you have a one account, it makes it easier because then you're able to see all the income that's coming into this one account. From that one account, you're able to say, okay, these are our expenses, our monthly expenses, and this is what we're left over every single month. So we'll put this into a savings account for emergency funds or traveling or whatever it is that you guys want to put that account for. So savings account is key.
Yes.
Tip number 4.
So tip number 4 is financing. So definitely looking into kind of like that credit card thing where we kind of move one account. It's really important, and Rudy taught me this. It's important that if you have a lot of debt on one credit card, to look at transferring that credit card debt into another credit card that offers 0% financing. That interest rate definitely is really, really bad.
Yeah. So one of the things, for example, when when everybody opens up their first credit cards, they charge you guys a huge percentage. 24%, 25%, 30%. It's ridiculous. That's insane. So one of the first things that I told her that we had to do to pay off the credit card was, first we had to determine how much the debt was, and if it was too much that we felt, okay, we're gonna take 6 months to pay it off, a year to pay it off, then we had to determine, is it better to roll it over? We get
Hold on. He's snoring and I feel like you can hear it.
No, you can hear it. So
I feel like you can hear that.
So there's credit cards out there that will give you 18 months interest free. So if you had a credit card with a high interest rate and you're going to take 18 months, 6 months, 12 months, it's better to just roll it over, you guys. Instead of paying interest, just roll it over, and then you can set that time frame and just make sure you pay it off. So ultimately, this video, this channel that we're doing is ultimately to really spread our knowledge and what has helped us.
And then finally, tip number 5, it would be investments. So that's your favorite topic.
So I think this I won't go too deep into this tip yet, just because I think it would be better to really focus on paying off debt, saving money, and then after those things are set forth, then we can cover investments. So for example, I am a licensed real estate agent in California. Real estate investing is one of my favorite things to do, and another thing that I also do with during my downtime is stocks. If you are in a financial position where you can invest $500, $1,000, I really would highly recommend the stock market. And some of the stocks that I invest in are Amazon, Netflix. Actually, not Netflix. I sold all the stocks. They went down and took a hit. Facebook. Sold them before they took a hit. Anyways,
I did not know that.
So communication is key. What happened? I told you. And there's different things where you're gonna look at investing. So 2 things. You're gonna look. There's investing long term and there's investing short term. So ultimately, you have to define what is the purpose. Do you want to invest for long term or short term? I personally like to invest for long term because that's how I feel you are guaranteed a higher percentage on your money.
That was just a little bit, I don't know how long this video is going to be. It might be a little long, but that's a little bit of how we basically manage our finances in a relationship or in our marriage.
So please, if you guys have any questions or what you guys would like to see on the next video, go ahead and leave us a comment, and please subscribe, share, and like. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Bye.